You've probably asked yourself at some point whether a man truly wants something real with you, whether he's after connection or just passing time. The truth is, you don't have to guess, analyze, or chase him to find out. A man who genuinely wants intimacy doesn't rely on grand words, flashy gestures, or empty promises. His intentions are revealed in the way he shows up, the way he listens, the way he respects your boundaries, and the small, consistent actions he takes when no one else is watching. And if you pay attention, these actions speak louder than anything he could ever say. When a man truly wants intimacy with you, emotional safety becomes the foundation he builds everything else upon, because he understands that closeness cannot exist where fear, insecurity, or uncertainty take over, and this awareness shapes the way he treats you from the very beginning. Emotional safety isn't just about kindness. It's about consistency, steadiness, and the ability to make you feel secure even when life around you feels chaotic. A man who wants intimacy intuitively knows that genuine connection requires openness, not unpredictability. So he becomes someone you can rely on, someone whose words and actions line up even on the days when he is tired, busy, frustrated, or distracted by life. He doesn't make you guess what he's thinking or leave you hanging in moments where communication matters. Instead, he is deliberate about keeping things clear because he knows intimacy grows in clarity, not confusion. His tone shifts when he talks to you, not in a performative way, but in a gentle, attentive, grounded way that makes you feel like your emotions have weight, your fears have context, and your thoughts deserve space. He doesn't minimize your feelings or make you feel dramatic for being human. He makes room for your emotional world the same way he hopes you'll make room for his. He starts to notice the little things that make you anxious or uncomfortable, the things that help you relax, the subjects that open your heart, and the ones that close it. And he adjusts not because he's pretending, but because he cares. You can feel that care not only in what he says, but in how he behaves during moments that typically reveal someone's true intentions, such as misunderstandings, disagreements, or moments when you express a need that requires him to shift or stretch. A man who wants intimacy never punishes you emotionally for being vulnerable. He doesn't weaponize silence, sarcasm, or distance to gain the upper hand. Instead, he leans in, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes imperfectly, but always intentionally, because he values the connection more than the comfort of avoiding uncomfortable conversations. He makes it safe for you to express yourself by showing you that your truth won't be met with anger, dismissal, or withdrawal. When something bothers you, he listens without turning defensive, and even if he doesn't fully understand immediately, he tries to, because understanding you becomes a form of closeness he wants to earn. His presence becomes calming rather than destabilizing because you don't have to prepare yourself for emotional whiplash or unpredictable reactions. You don't walk on eggshells around him because he never punishes vulnerability with ridicule or silence. He gives reassurance when you need it, not because you're insecure, but because reassurance is part of building something real. He speaks with respect even during conflict because he knows intimacy does not survive emotional explosions or careless cruelty. He remembers what you tell him not because he's trying to score points, but because your experiences matter to him on a deep level. He creates an emotional rhythm with you, something steady and warm that helps you relax into the connection instead of guarding yourself against disappointment. In his presence, your nervous system slowly begins to trust that you won't be blindsided, dismissed, or misunderstood, and that trust becomes the soil where intimacy grows. When a man truly wants intimacy with you, one of the clearest signs is his willingness to choose vulnerability over ego, because he understands that real closeness isn't created through charm, control, or confidence alone, but through the courage to let you see the parts of him that aren't polished or perfect. Instead of hiding behind a tough exterior or pretending he has everything figured out, he begins to open small windows into his inner world, sharing thoughts he doesn't usually talk about, fears he rarely admits, and hopes he's never put into words. This doesn't mean he suddenly becomes emotional in dramatic ways. It means he stops performing and starts showing you who he truly is beneath the surface. You'll notice he doesn't rush to defend himself when he's wrong, nor does he pretend he's unaffected when something hurts him. He allows you to witness his uncertainty, his flaws, and his growth because he wants you to understand him rather than admire a curated version of him. And this vulnerability shows up in the way he communicates during difficult moments. Instead of shutting down, withdrawing, or becoming sarcastic, a common defense mechanism for people who fear emotional exposure, he tries to talk through things even when it's uncomfortable. He admits when something bothers him instead of acting distant. He apologizes when he realizes he's hurt you instead of deflecting blame or turning the conversation back on you. Vulnerability also shows in the way he asks questions that reveal he genuinely wants to know your deeper feelings, because someone who is afraid of emotional intimacy only engages on a surface level, while someone who values intimacy dives into topics that matter. He starts opening up about moments from his past that shaped him, not as a tactic to gain sympathy, but because he trusts you enough to share experiences that still echo inside him. His tone softens when he discusses things that trouble him, showing that he feels safe enough with you to drop the armor he wears in other parts of his life. He may tell you about insecurities he usually hides, revealing the pressure he feels to succeed, the fear of not being enough, or the wounds from relationships that taught him to protect himself. Instead of pretending that nothing affects him, he lets you see that he too has moments of uncertainty. This emotional transparency also affects the way he treats your vulnerability. Because he knows how difficult it is to open up, he becomes more gentle and supportive when you share something personal. He doesn't mock, minimize, or criticize what you reveal. Instead, he holds space for it, knowing that intimacy flows both ways and that trust must be mutual. You can feel that he's not performing emotional intimacy to get validation or make you attached. He's sharing because honesty feels right with you. He begins to use "I feel" instead of hiding behind sarcasm or avoidance. He expresses affection without worrying if it makes him look too soft. He tells you when he misses you, when he appreciates you, and when something you did made him feel cared for. Because he's not afraid of appearing vulnerable or dependent, he takes emotional risks, not reckless ones, but intentional ones that deepen the connection, like telling you what he values about you, admitting when he's scared of losing you, or opening up about dreams he's never spoken aloud. He does these things not for approval, but because intimacy matters more to him than guarding his pride. When a man genuinely wants intimacy with you, consistency becomes one of the strongest indicators of his intentions, because intimacy cannot grow in the dark spaces between mixed signals, disappearing acts, and sudden shifts in behavior. So he shows up in a steady, grounded way that makes you feel like you can trust the connection without bracing for disappointment. He doesn't treat you like an option he revisits only when he's bored, lonely, or looking for validation. Instead, he treats the bond as something that deserves care, attention, and a level of emotional responsibility. You don't find yourself waiting hours or days for a response while he casually reappears with excuses, nor do you feel like you have to overanalyze every interaction because he removes the guesswork by being present even when life gets demanding. Consistency doesn't mean he's perfect or available every minute. It means he maintains the connection with intention, reaching out, checking in, and communicating with clarity instead of letting silence do the talking. When a man wants intimacy, he doesn't let distance build without explanation, and he doesn't allow misunderstandings to linger. He addresses things quickly because he cares about keeping the emotional space between you clean. You notice that he doesn't go hot and cold depending on his mood, stress level, or social distractions. Even on his difficult days, he doesn't disappear or retreat as an easy escape. He understands that intimacy requires emotional reliability, the kind that makes you feel like you can share your world without wondering if he'll vanish the moment things get real. He makes plans and follows through on them, not because he's trying to impress you, but because he respects your time and sees you as part of his life, not an occasional detour. He messages with intention rather than convenience, and his effort doesn't fade after the initial excitement wears off. In fact, when challenges appear, instead of withdrawing like someone who only wanted short-term comfort, he leans in and becomes even more communicative. His presence feels dependable because he doesn't need perfect circumstances to stay connected. He makes the choice every day to nurture the closeness between you. When he says he'll call, he calls. When he says he wants to see you, he creates the moment rather than making empty promises. And even during disagreements or emotional tension, he remains engaged instead of disappearing to avoid discomfort. He's aware that intimacy deepens through the boring days, the busy days, and the imperfect days, not just the exciting ones, so he doesn't let external pressures push him into emotional avoidance. His consistency also shows in the small habits: good morning messages, quick check-ins, remembering things you told him, noticing when you're off, making time instead of finding excuses. And these patterns reveal a man who understands that emotional presence is one of the most powerful forms of care. You never feel like you're chasing him, competing for his attention, or waiting for him to come around, because a man who wants intimacy doesn't leave space for doubt. He builds trust with repetition, reassurance, and reliability, showing you through his everyday actions that the connection isn't something he dips into when it's convenient, but something he values enough to nurture consistently. When a man truly wants intimacy with you, his respect for your emotional and physical boundaries becomes one of the strongest signs that his intentions are genuine, because he understands that real closeness can only grow where trust is protected, not pressured. He doesn't treat your boundaries as obstacles he needs to overcome or negotiate. Instead, he treats them as essential parts of who you are, signals that help him understand what makes you feel safe, comfortable, and valued. You can feel the difference in his behavior because he never tries to push you into something you're not ready for, whether it's physical intimacy, emotional disclosure, or deepening the relationship faster than feels natural to you. He doesn't use charm, guilt, silence, or frustration to get his way. He communicates openly and listens carefully when you express what you need or what you're not ready to give. When you say no, he accepts it immediately without trying to reinterpret it or turn it into a maybe. When you need space, he gives it willingly, not as a punishment or a withdrawal, but as a gesture of respect. He sees your boundaries not as rejection, but as information about how to care for you better. This respect shows up not only in the major moments, but in the small ones. The way he checks in before making assumptions, the way he asks if something feels okay, the way he pays attention to your body language and emotions without forcing you to explain yourself every time. He doesn't rush physical closeness because he knows that intimacy built on pressure is temporary, but intimacy built on trust lasts. He doesn't react with irritation if you need to slow things down, nor does he make you feel like your comfort is an inconvenience. Instead, he reassures you that he's here for connection, not conquest, and that your pace matters to him. When it comes to emotional boundaries, he doesn't demand vulnerability before you're ready, and he doesn't punish you for needing time to open up. He doesn't push you to share personal details to prove your feelings or loyalty. Rather, he creates an environment where you feel comfortable revealing things naturally at your own pace. He understands that intimacy is not a performance but a progression, and he's patient enough to let it unfold in a way that feels healthy. In conflict, he handles your boundaries with care, avoiding manipulative tactics like ignoring your limits, raising his voice to overpower you, or insisting that his needs always come first. He's able to pause, adjust, and reflect because protecting the connection matters more to him than winning the moment. He remembers what you've said matters to you, whether it's how you prefer to communicate, what makes you uncomfortable, what you need to feel emotionally safe, or what lines shouldn't be crossed. Over time, you notice that being with him feels grounded rather than destabilizing because you're not constantly defending your limits, justifying your feelings, or explaining why something crosses a line. His respect makes you feel valued rather than drained, understood rather than dismissed, and safe rather than exposed. And this safety becomes the fertile ground where deeper intimacy begins to grow, not because he demanded it, but because he created a space where it could naturally thrive. When a man genuinely wants intimacy with you, one of the clearest things he will always do is invest in shared moments, because he understands that intimacy is not built through grand gestures or short bursts of affection, but through the consistent creation of experiences that bring two people closer in ways that feel natural, meaningful, and emotionally enriching. He doesn't wait for the perfect occasion or rely on rare special events to build connection. Instead, he intentionally looks for opportunities to spend real time with you, whether it's a long conversation, a simple walk, a quiet meal, or a moment of laughter over something small. He values presence over performance, choosing quality connection over empty excitement. His effort is noticeable not because it's extravagant, but because it's reliable. He makes plans and follows through, shows up with intention, and treats your time together as something precious rather than optional. You don't feel like you're constantly trying to catch his attention or convince him to engage. He engages naturally because being with you matters to him. He creates emotional memories by being curious about your world, asking questions about your experiences, and inviting you into moments that help him share his world too. This could be something as simple as showing you a place that means something to him, introducing you to people who matter in his life, or encouraging shared activities that deepen your connection. He doesn't hide you in the shadows of his schedule. He willingly blends your lives in ways that feel organic and safe. Over time, you notice that he doesn't treat time with you like a check mark or an obligation. He treats it as an experience he wants to savor, not rush through. And even when he's busy, he still finds ways to create small pockets of connection, sending a thoughtful message, making a quick call, planning a moment later in the week, because he understands that intimacy grows through consistency, not intensity. He brings emotional presence into the time you spend together, staying off his phone, paying attention to what you say, and being mentally and emotionally available rather than physically present but distracted. These shared moments don't feel forced or transactional. They feel alive, comfortable, and full of subtle depth. He invites you into activities that create bonding, whether it's cooking together, exploring new places, trying something fun, or simply sitting in silence that feels warm rather than empty. He knows that shared experiences create shared meaning, and shared meaning creates intimacy. He remembers the things you enjoy and incorporates them into your time together, not because he's trying to impress you, but because he genuinely wants you to feel valued and understood. And he doesn't just create moments for the good times. He's there during the stressful, tiring, or emotionally heavy moments too. He provides presence, support, and companionship because intimacy isn't just about pleasure, it's about partnership. When you're with him, it feels like time slows down just enough for you to breathe more deeply, laugh more freely, and open up more naturally. These moments become the quiet threads that weave closeness into the connection, building a foundation that feels steady, sincere, and emotionally rich. And through this consistent investment in shared experiences, he shows you that he's not just interested in a relationship of convenience, he's interested in a relationship of connection, where intimacy grows not from what he says he wants, but from the moments he creates to prove it. When a man truly wants intimacy with you, one of the strongest indicators is the way he listens, not merely to respond or to keep a conversation going, but to genuinely understand who you are beneath the surface, because he knows that intimacy is created through emotional awareness, not assumptions. You can feel the difference in his presence. He's not distracted, half engaged, or waiting for his turn to speak. Instead, he gives his full attention to your words, your tone, the pauses you take, and even the emotions you're trying to hide. He listens with curiosity rather than judgment, wanting to understand not only what happened, but how it made you feel, what it meant to you, and how it shaped your perspective. He doesn't interrupt or rush you, nor does he minimize your experiences by comparing them to his own. Instead, he creates space for you to express yourself freely. When you talk about something that excites you, he leans in because your joy matters to him. When you talk about something painful, he softens because he senses the emotional weight behind your words. He asks thoughtful questions that show he's paying attention, remembering small details you mentioned days or weeks earlier, weaving them into future conversations in ways that make you feel seen and valued. This kind of listening also shows up in how he responds to your emotions. He doesn't tell you you're overreacting or being too sensitive, and he doesn't dismiss what you feel simply because he wouldn't have reacted the same way. Instead, he tries to understand the world from your point of view, recognizing that intimacy requires empathy, not correction. He listens when you talk about your boundaries, your fears, your past experiences, and your hopes, not so he can use them to his advantage, but so he can understand how to love you better. He listens during conflict, resisting the urge to defend himself immediately, because he knows that solving the problem matters less than understanding the root of it. He allows your feelings to land without taking them as an attack, processing them with patience rather than ego. Through his listening, he shows that he's not trying to mold you into someone easier, quieter, or less emotional. He accepts the full version of you and wants to know you in a way that goes beyond surface connection. You notice that conversations with him feel safe rather than draining because you're not competing for attention or battling to explain why something matters. He follows emotional threads you didn't even realize you were revealing, noticing the moments your voice softens or tightens, the moments your energy lifts or dips, and he responds with care rather than indifference. He doesn't weaponize what you tell him or throw your vulnerabilities back at you during arguments. Instead, he treats your words with the kind of respect that makes you feel like your inner world holds value. His listening also influences his actions. He remembers the things you want to achieve, the habits you're trying to break, the dreams you're scared to pursue, and he supports you in ways that align with what you've shared. He becomes attentive to the things that comfort you, the things that trigger you, and the things that make you feel grounded or appreciated. His listening creates a sense of emotional partnership where you don't feel alone in your experiences. And through this deep, attentive, patient listening, he shows you that intimacy isn't about passion alone. It's about understanding, connection, and the willingness to truly know another person in a world full of people who only skim the surface. True intimacy isn't something a man talks you into. It's something he consistently shows you through his actions, his presence, and the depth of his care. When a man genuinely wants closeness with you, he doesn't create confusion, pressure, or emotional instability. He creates clarity, safety, and connection. He is emotionally open, steady, respectful, invested, and deeply attentive because he values the bond, not just the benefit. And when you experience this kind of intention, you no longer find yourself guessing, hoping, or waiting for him to prove himself. You simply feel the truth of his intentions through the way he treats your heart. In the end, real intimacy is not built by accident. It's built by a man who chooses you in all the small, meaningful ways that make love feel safe, real, and grounded.